they really look up to their teachers. And I think that's really, really important. So they've adapted really well. They thrive there. They're happy. They're kind little humans, and they love school.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
We were looking for a school that was somewhat within driving distance, so 30-minute or less commute, small community school where the kids could explore their curiosity and be supported in an environment that's academically rigorous, but not focused on rote learning. We definitely wanted another language. The reason we really want another language was because there's just been so many studies on the positive effects of multiple languages on brain development. And Mandarin was especially appealing to us for a couple reasons. One, because it's the last non-phonetic written language. So it develops both the left and the right side of the brain versus, Spanish or French. It's also one of the tonal spoken languages. So if you say a syllable, a sound, there's 4 different tones in Mandarin. Each tone means a different word. And so having that non-phonetic written language and that tonal spoken language was just great for brain development. On top of that, Dalton also had Spanish, which was great. And I just felt like that basically we were setting the boys up to be able to communicate with billions of people at that point, and also just be exposed to those different cultures from a very young age and be open to learning and be open to all of these new ideas. And then myself, I'm also Chinese. We don't speak Mandarin at home, but I wanted the boys to be able to connect with that part of their heritage. We also felt like the teachers we met at Dalton when we toured were all really phenomenal. They were really patient. They answered all our questions. You could tell even when we visited, they kind of got down on the kids' level and spoke to them. And we also had one particular teacher who we had at our preschool that she got a job at Dalton. So we followed her there too, because she was so amazing in preschool with our kids. So that's kind of how we came about Dalton. They love Dalton. I think we formed sort of lifelong friendships with families as the children have formed lifelong friendships with their peers. They enjoy going to school every day. They're excited about school. They love their teachers. They take the things that their teachers teach them. For example, multiple kids of mine have had the same English teacher, and they're little boys, so they tend to say random things. And so she taught them, before you say something, is it kind, is it necessary, and is it true? And so that rule has come into our house, and we talk about it all the time. So their teachers are very, they really look up to their teachers. And I think that's really, really important. So they've adapted really well. They thrive there. They're happy. They're kind little humans, and they love school. And I think there's, I think as a mom, you doubt a lot of things, right? Are they doing too many activities, too little activities? Should they be doing this sport, not that sport? But Dalton is not something I ever doubt. I know it's the right place for them. I know they're thriving. I know that they're being made kind of into the best little humans they can be there, which I think says a lot about a school. They're friendly, they're kind, they're helpful, they're dependable, which I don't think most little kids are, right? I always tell other people that the thing that I love most about the 3 boys that are in school is they're like my rock. They're dependable. If they say they're going to do something, they will do it. If they tell you something, you know it's true. They are dependable, reliable. They come through for you, and they're responsible. and they're kind. They're kind to their toddler brother. They're kind to their baby brother. They're kind to other kids. You'll see them at the playground being nice. All of these values, I think they all learned at school, watching their teachers teach other kids that. And I think that's really important. That's sort of a non-academic component that Dalton is really great about. Just like they scooter every year for the World Wildlife Foundation. So they'll scooter for the turtles or the pandas, and they're good little citizens. I think it's all the cultural aspects of Mandarin. So all the they'll do the holidays, different Chinese holidays, or they're learning about the Monkey King, which is the Monkey King is a very famous Chinese story where the monkey he was born out of a rock and he can fly and he has a giant staff that he can fight bad guys with. You know, all of these fun aspects they really really like, and it's unique and it's something that connects the three of them together. Their emphasis on being kind and curious. So I feel like the academic is just a given. They're great, but they go the extra mile in making them into thoughtful, small people. Like teaching them values. They do over the holidays. They usually there's a program called Morelands, and they will adopt a few families, and the families will come, and then the teachers will help the kids come up with a budget, look for donations, think about if you were this 8-year-old who is in need, what would you want? How do we do that? How can we should we go to Canadian Tire to buy it? Should we go to this other place to buy it? What's the shipping cost like? How can we kind of stretch our dollar? They give them a lot of practical skills, which I think is really nice. Right now, they're doing a unit on water conservation. So my first grader is logging all the water use in our house, and he's thinking about, you know, whether we should save the water we brush our teeth with to flush the toilet, which I told him maybe it wasn't such a great idea because I wasn't sure how I was going to catch all that spit up water. But I like that they're teaching them to be kind people. They're teaching them to be good citizens. I think the weak points are that the school is relatively young. And because it's relatively young, in the upper grades, there isn't as big of a cohort. Our grade 6 is going to UTS next year for grade 7 because it's a smaller cohort. So I hope by the time our grade 3 or grade 1 or my other 2 younger kids get there, there'll be enough of a cohort that they could stick around for grade 7 and 8. And I hope eventually they'll have an upper school, because I think what they're doing is phenomenal. And I think if they can maintain that, they're not even bilingual, right? They're speaking Spanish, French, English, and Mandarin. Like if they could keep those 4 languages up until grade 12, what a gift that would be for them to go into the world. They basically would be able to talk to anybody and have a connection, that cultural connection, that understanding with probably 80% of the world. My eldest, he's 11, and I just use him as an example because he's progressed the furthest in this kind of system. He's also just gotten the mindset you can pick up anything, you can learn anything. Because look at me, I picked up French, I picked up Spanish, I can speak Mandarin, I can speak English, I can talk to people. He'll talk to random strangers about anything. And he's just had this mindset that if someone else can do it, there's probably a book about it and I could read it and I could do it. And so that I think is a really I don't want to say surprising, but a really neat factor that I didn't really fully appreciate until I kind of saw him grow up and see him take on that mindset. How dedicated the teachers are. My first grader, his own fault, didn't decide to do his homework until 9 o'clock last night because he was reading a Geronimo Stilton book, and he didn't finish his homework until 9:45. And then at 10 o'clock, I got a ping, and it was from his English teacher. She had gone through his homework already and corrected it. I didn't expect her to be up so late grading grade 1 homework. And the comments she gives them are so detailed about, you know, when you did your cursive, this F needs to be a little bit more like this, and they're encouraging it. It's just so great how committed and how you can see that the teachers there love the kids and they love what they're doing versus they're just there because they have to be, right? Which it makes a whole world of difference. During the pandemic, we like the cars pull up and then we open the door and the kids come out and then the teachers kind of usher them in. And you could see their little faces light up when they see the teachers and they're like, you know what I had for dinner last night? Or over the weekend, it was my grandpa's birthday. Like the way that their whole little faces kind of beam when they see their teacher, because that's one of their favorite people, is just priceless, right? Teaching children who are curious, global citizens who are helpful, they live by that every day. I think there's a Dalton song, and when they sing the Dalton song, there's one phrase that sticks out to me, which is be the best that I can be. And that's what they're teaching the kids every day, to be the best they can be. Openness, hardworking, friendly. I think a lot of them are, I would say, global citizens. It's a pretty diverse group of people. Every family's kind of got stories of like they've lived here, they lived there. There's lots of mixed racial families. Not even any that have to do with Chinese, but just parents who come from all very diverse backgrounds who come together and they kind of made Toronto home. We've definitely made lifelong friends from our kids making lifelong friends. Before the pandemic, the parents got together a lot. There's a bunch of WhatsApp groups that a lot of the parents are on. I'm in a book club with a lot of the moms. It's a good little community. My eldest this year, he's always done very well academically. And he's in grade 6 this year, and he took it upon himself to study, to take all the tests, write all the essays, and apply to the private schools. And he got into 2 really good private schools and ultimately picked UTS. I think that that drive, that motivation, and that sense of responsibility are all things that he learned at Dalton. I certainly feel like they academically prepared him so that he didn't. UTS has a number of tests, and everyone talks about how difficult these tests are. And I felt like Dalton really prepped him for it. They didn't intentionally prep him for it, but they prepped him for it by making sure he knew that if he needed to learn something, he could always pick up a book and learn something. That there's nothing too hard as long as you're willing to do the work and get a book, because there's literally a book about everything. My second, who is in grade 3, and this is something he learned at Dalton, and it has a lot to do with the way Dalton teaches kids to get along and resolve conflicts. When he was in grade, I think 1 or 2, he used to like to hold hands with other kids and stroll around in the playground during recess. And some of the older kids teased him a little bit, said, "Why are you holding hands with so-and-so? Why are you strolling in the playground?" And to his credit, and I think much to the credit of his teachers, he said, "That's what you do when you love someone. You hold their hand and you walk around with them." And I certainly didn't teach him that. And I felt that was something they talk a lot about kindness at Dalton, right? And I think that was such a great and sweet comeback that really made me beam when they told me that. It's true. When you care about someone, you hold their hand, you stroll around and you chit chat and you catch up on your day. That's just what people do when they care about each other. My youngest, who's in grade 1, he is a very spirited child, a unique individual who's very spirited. And we have a 2-year-old and a 14-month-old little babies. And I think it's always hard when you used to be the baby and then now you have 2 younger baby brothers. There's a 5-year gap between him and the next one. So he was a baby for quite a while. And I'm amazed at how proud he is, because he's always writing about them in his journal, or he's telling his teachers, or he's saying, "I taught this guy this," or "I taught this guy that." And I don't know if I really taught him. Maybe he learned from his older brothers how to be a good brother, but I feel like that's something he learned at school because they have reading buddies where an older child will read to a younger child, or sometimes in Spanish, the older children dress up like animals, jungle animals, and they hide all around the school. And the little kindergartners go on a safari tour where the older kids jump out as safari animals at them. So I think all these things that they're teaching the kids on how to get along with each other and how to be kind and how to engage with someone who's younger, who might be difficult, who might be crying and want to hit you and not want to play with you. What are some different, like, nice ways for an older child to kind of get in there and say, let's deflect and let's talk about something else, or let me show you this roar I could do, or let me read you this book. So that's something I'm really proud of him about. I was worried he would not make a good brother, but he's been an excellent bigger brother. It's a small group of teachers and small administration. And we started with the school when the school probably had less than 20 kids, maybe even 15 kids. So I've had the opportunity to get to know everyone really well. Teachers that are older, teachers that started right out from their teaching experience at Dalton. And we've had a wonderful experience with everyone in terms of flexibility, in terms of, I mean, you could imagine having 5 kids. Sometimes we have personal family events that happened, and good and bad, and being able to communicate with the teacher and saying, you know, my first grader may come in and say this or that, and them saying, you know what, don't worry, we'll help you. Like, they've just been very, very responsive and very, very aware of each individual kid's personality and needs, and try to push that individual to be the best they can be, tailored to that individual. So one child might respond better to this, another might respond better to that. Just helping them sort of guide their growth, I guess. Academic success, multi-languages, non-phonetic written and tonal spoken for Mandarin for long-term brain benefits. Even if your child goes away not speaking the language, they would have had long-lasting brain benefits from it. And the third would be the community. It's a community of amazing teachers, amazing families, other amazing small children who are all pushing your child to be kind, to be helpful, to be responsible, to foster curiosity, to want to learn, to think it's cool to read all the time, to be the best versions of themselves. I would have picked Dalton sooner because when I was looking, Dalton was just starting out, and I was very concerned that maybe we'll go there and there won't be other like-minded people who will join. I had no idea if Dalton was going to be the 90 kids it is now. I was worried that we would go and a few years later there wouldn't be a school because there were only 15 of us. I would tell myself that the same values and the same advantages you see with Dalton, other families will see that as well. And it will attract other like-minded families. And it's kind of this snowball effect of similar-minded people coming together, and the community will grow and grow and grow because there is so much value there.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.